difference. I worked in New York when I was starting my career in the 90s. I worked in a doctor's office in New York who was in the beginning of functional medicine days. And he had a sign in his office. And he said, there's 3 things in life don't look for bargains for. One of them is a parachute. The second is tattoos. And the third is nutritional supplements. The difference between the crap you get at a big box drugstore that came from China and may or may not have what it says it has on the label. The difference between the lowest end and the highest end is a few bucks. That's not where you save time, save money. So get the good stuff. It's all linked at rockwellnutrition.com/immunity. You'll get the free report, and I'll tell you where I send my patients to get supplements. There's a dispensary you can sign up and get your own account, and you should shop there. It may be a couple bucks more expensive, but the same products on Amazon, a good double-digit percentage of them are counterfeit. So I think
you invest in your health now, or you pay in healthcare later. So, being preventative, and our listeners really understand that. They understand that taking their health into their own hands. And look, coming off of the heels of what we've endured over the last year, I don't think anybody would disagree that taking care of our health is our number one asset.
Indeed, at the top of the list. There are others, obviously, but I do want to mention, because I'm not advocating the position that the problem with COVID is we're not taking enough supplements. That's not what I would like to tie it up with. And I know that you have limited time, but my take on COVID is that we wouldn't be dying at the rate that we're dying at if there weren't underlying metabolic conditions. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Yep.
I don't think that if you changed your diet, nobody would get COVID. I'm not saying that. I don't think if you changed your diet, nobody would die. I think that what we have on our hands here is a very virulent and nasty little virus, but it's killing more people than it needs to. And my theory about that comes out of the book that we just researched for the last couple of years.
Which we're going to talk about.
Yeah, but it's very related to this, because here's what we found. And this is pre-COVID. We found this, that book got published in the later part of 2020. So it was finished. The writing was already done. We had never heard of COVID. What we found, though, was the prevalence of a condition called insulin resistance, which underlies prediabetes, diabetes, obesity, heart disease. It's the best predictor for heart disease long range. Forget cholesterol. It's part of one of the myths. Insulin resistance shows up 10 years before your doctor says, your cholesterol is a little high, Mrs. Jones. And it shows up 10 years before he or she says, Mrs. Jones, your A1C, it's going up. I think you might be pre-diabetic. Let's get you on metformin. Those are late markers. Insulin resistance. What's the relevance? Look at all of the comorbidities for COVID. What are they? Hypertension. That's hypertension is part of all of what we're talking about. It's the first sign of prediabetes. And there's diabetes, there's obesity, there's heart disease, there's Alzheimer's, which we're now calling type 3 diabetes because it's got the same root, which is insulin resistance. And then there's these 3 outliers that I was puzzled by. I'm putting this hypothesis together and say, holy moly, insulin resistance, which can be treated and fixed by diet. Insulin resistance is underlying all these pre-existing conditions for COVID. But what about liver and lung? I never heard of that. Spent a morning on the National Institute of Medicine library. Anybody can do it. PubMed.gov. Yeah. Started looking up the connection between insulin resistance and liver disease, insulin resistance and lung disease, insulin resistance and kidney disease. Bingo, it's connected to all of them. So the relevance of what we discovered in the great cholesterol myth is that there's a metabolic condition that underlies all of the pre-existing conditions that augur very badly for you if you contact COVID. What could be more relevant than fixing that? And you can treat it, prevent it, or reverse it with diet alone. You don't need drugs.
This is a big deal. Okay?
Yes.
This is a big deal. And this needs to be heard because I think we are here, and don't get me wrong, because I don't want anybody saying, well, Maria, you're like propagating, infection. I'm not saying don't wear a mask. I'm not saying. Oh my
God, neither am I. I'm saying add a couple things here and change your damn diet. And
exactly. Let's get to the root of it is what we're saying.
And let me say this. My overall philosophy about any of these things is, and it's my personal philosophy as well, is that there are things that are out of your control and things that are in your control. And one of the greatest pieces of wisdom you can achieve is knowing the difference. It's basically the serenity prayer, right? And it's all of Stoic philosophy, which started 2,300 years ago. It's the same thing. Know the difference. So we have put all this energy into social policy about COVID. Basically stuff you and I can't, maybe large actions by government agencies can control things, but you and I really can't control the virulence of the virus. We can do the smart things, to protect ourselves. But what we can control, what's really under our control, is our ability to be stronger in the face of it. So if you got a hurricane threatening your home on the Florida coast, you can't change the course of that hurricane, but you can damn well build a stronger foundation for your house. So the last year of my videos on YouTube and my columns and my articles the focus has been, guys, do everything Fauci is saying to do. He's smart. Yeah. He's great. Yeah. Do those things. But God, what about your own ability to fight these things off? I've never had more questions about how do I fortify my immune system. Well, that's a great thing that we're doing it now. I've been doing it essentially for 30 years. Yeah. So I wasn't that worried about what would happen if I got it. And guess what? I got it. And guess what? I recovered. Now, that doesn't prove anything. It's an N of 1, but it's kind of what I expected. I wasn't in terror of getting it. I did all the smart things. And I've been fortifying this house for a long time. I figured if I got it, I'd probably survive. And I did.
Yeah. Did you get it?
I got it.
You did?
Yeah.
What kind of symptoms did you have?
I had the flu symptoms for about 2. Michelle and I both got it. The kids got it. The kids had no symptoms. Michelle and I, sleepless night, some aches and pains. I think the worst part of it, Marie, to tell you the truth, was the psychological anxiety thinking, well, these symptoms aren't that bad. But you know how they say you could have symptoms one day and then you could feel a little better and then you're dead.
Yeah.
It was more than
I'm certain that the psychological part of it is probably more for people than anything. But here's the deal. You and I know, because we've lived this world for a long, long time, that there is proof to taking care of your body over the long haul. But how do you treat the psychological, the mental torment that this has placed on a lot of people? Because what we know people do when they are not able to control a situation is they will lean into comfort food, quote, comfort food. They will lean into maybe drinking. They will lean into sitting on the couch and binge watching Netflix. Like the habits that
we're not supposed to do that? No.
I'm just saying, not that I binge watched anything.
No, never. I would never.
But what I'm saying is we have a tendency to, rather than embracing what we know we should be doing and what we know should be good for us as a habit, we go into this like mode of panic. And that panic leads us to a place where we don't think straight. So how do you feel like, and I know this is a little bit maybe off topic, but how do we balance the mental piece? And then I want to talk about your book.
I think, my training before I did this, I was planning on being a clinical psychologist. So I have a master's in psychology. I stopped after the master's. But my thinking about that is you handle it the same way you handle what we're talking about. Mental metabolism and physical metabolism are just two parts of the same continuum, and they merge all over the place. So in metabolism, in physical metabolism, the holy grail, everything I've been writing for the last, I don't know how many years, has been towards building a fat-burning metabolism, a flexible metabolism that can deal with both starch and sugar if it has to, but also can access fat. That's a flexible metabolism. Well, a mental metabolism that's flexible can deal with both happiness and sadness and joy and tragedy and all of these things because we're more flexible mentally. And building that flexibility mentally involves a lot of things that are kind of analogous to what we have to do physically. We have to change some habits. We have to understand how conflict fits into our lives and to turn some of that into opportunities. And I'm not saying that this hasn't been devastating for people and changed their lives and lost loved ones and all of that, but I'm saying in general, we could get better at handling stresses and handling challenges. You say, when something like this hits us, we all go nuts and we eat comfort food and we binge. Okay, if you were walking down the street and a really threatening situation developed, and it looked like you were going to be surrounded and maybe robbed or beaten up or just roughed up a little bit, you'd probably be terrified and you'd turn to all kinds of like, what should I do? And, your mind would be in the kind of state that you're describing that we've been in with COVID, only we're reaching for comfort food. Well, what do you think an 8th degree black belt would feel if that person, if he or she ran into that same challenge?
They're ready.
Well, they wouldn't feel as panicked. They'd go, okay, I know what this is. What do you got? 3 guys here? They wouldn't feel as panicked because they have rehearsed in their mind some conflicts. They have practiced dealing with day-to-day frustrations, like dealing with Spectrum cable, which would drive anybody crazy. You practice those things, and you practice some serenity in the face of challenges. And this is how you build a flexible mental metabolism. And that's why some people, they can't get a pink iPhone and they're ready to have a suicide attack. And other people can seem to navigate some of the most stressful and distressing situations, and they seem to be able to float with it because they are better cushioned, they're better equipped, they're more like that 5th degree black belt. And that's what I encourage people to do. The time to fix all this, obviously, ideally, is not while you're flying the airplane. That's not when you want to fix it. So I just urge people, all of you that are caring about your physical metabolism and what you eat and how you exercise and how much sun you get, also pay some attention to how you handle things mentally.
Have you ever wondered, is rinsing my produce with the water that comes out of the sink that I don't even drink enough to really clean it? Well, then you're one of the smartest people I know, because you're absolutely right. It's not enough. That's why we created the only all-natural and patented line of food wash and wipes, and it's called Eat Cleaner. It's tasteless, odorless, and lab tested, and it removes up to 99.9% of the residue that water can't, including pesticides, wax, soil, and junk that can carry bacteria that can really make you sick. Plus, we formulated it to help extend the shelf life of your fresh produce too, and that'll save you money. When your berries are lasting up to 10-12 days, you know that's a good thing. It helps your produce last up to 5 times longer using a natural blend of fruit acids and antioxidants. So there's no chemicals. It's just clean eating fun. And this can help save your family an average of over $500 per year. Make it easy on yourself, reduce waste, and get that fruit and veggies into your body, where it's going to do you a lot of good and not in the trash. Check us out, eatcleaner.com, or head to our Amazon store at amazon.com/eatcleaner.
In April of last year, I was playing basketball with my son and my husband, and I tore my ACL and my meniscus. It was pretty bad. And then I went and played tennis a couple of weeks later, which was really dumb. But after that, I went into a bit of a depression because I couldn't move the way I was used to. I've never torn anything, knock on wood. And I really had to kind of just come to terms with a different approach to healing and slowing down a little bit. And now I am happy to say, just with taking a lot of collagen and I think eating right and supplementing, I didn't have surgery. I can run, I can jump, I can do everything that I was doing before. But it required me to just calm myself down a little bit, because when you are a type A or you're like a hyper producer and you can't go out and do all of the things that you want to do, it like takes a toll on you mentally. But I created a new ritual. And now I love walking. I mean, walking to me is like, I put on my headphones, I listen to a podcast, and that is my time in my head to get creative. And I wasn't doing that before. I was always just like, go to a class, go do this. I had every minute scheduled. And I think being open to a new mind opening practice, a gratitude practice, I know that word is kind of a little overused, but really taking that time to be good to yourself. And by doing that, it gives your body mind connection a chance to reboot. Because I have a lot of friends who are like, they've injured themselves over the last year. It's not ironic. It's part of the stress reaction. And we've all had to create new normals for ourselves.
That's correct. And I agree with you. And we